cranberry juice wasn't supposed to feel like fire. But as it trickled down my $3,000 white satin dress, a gift I'd saved for months to buy, it burned through more than fabric. It burned through every illusion I'd ever held about family. Laughter cracked through the silence. My niece, Chloe, all 22 years of venom in red lipstick, leaned in with a smirk. "Now you look as cheap as you really are." The room erupted. My mom clapped, like this was some kind of show. My sister, Hannah, didn't even hide her pride. She just folded her arms and smiled like this was justice finally served. I stood there frozen, the chill of cranberry soaking into my skin, the chandelier light flickering off the liquid like blood. And all I could think was, why now? Why tonight? My birthday. My 34th birthday. No apology. No remorse. Just eyes on me, like they'd been waiting for this moment all along. My name is Lena Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family? Because I used to think betrayal had a sound, maybe the crack of a lie, or the silence after an argument. But it turns out, it sounds a lot like cranberry juice hitting marble floors while your family laughs. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just turned to my mother, expecting at least a flicker of shame. But she only said, "You should have known better than to wear something you can't afford to replace." And that's when something inside me broke, quietly, cleanly, like glass underfoot. They thought this was humiliation. They didn't realize, this was ignition. The night they tried to break me, became the night I started to rebuild. The next morning, I woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that hums in your chest like an echo of shame. I looked at the dress draped over my chair, cranberry stains bloomed like bruises. My phone buzzed. A message from Hannah. "Hope you learned your lesson last night. Stop pretending you're better than us." I stared at the screen, numb. Better than them? I'd spent years helping my family, paying bills when mom's rent was late, buying Chloe a laptop for college, even covering Hannah's car repairs when her husband left. But that night made one thing clear, I wasn't family. I was their competition. I showered in silence, scrubbing at invisible dirt. Every drop of water reminded me of how small I'd felt under those lights. I could still hear Chloe's laughter, sharp and cruel. I could still see Mom's clapping hands, the woman who raised me, applauding my humiliation. That day, I made a promise. Not out loud. Not even consciously. Just something that settled deep in my chest. They would never get to laugh at me again. By afternoon, I packed my things. I'd been renting a small place near Mom's, always staying close, always available. But as I zipped the last suitcase, I realized, I'd built my life around their approval. Around their convenience. No more. I drove until the town disappeared in my rearview mirror. Until the roads turned quiet and my mind started to clear. Somewhere between the highway lights and the endless hum of tires, I whispered to myself. They wanted to see me small. They're about to see me powerful. Because I wasn't just walking away. I was planning. And my revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be quiet. Beautiful. And final. I didn't grow up rich. But I grew up with dreams that scared my mother. She used to say, "Lena, people like us don't belong in big places." So when I got my first real job, assistant designer at a fashion studio in Chicago, she told everyone I was playing dress up. I sent money home every month. Bought her gifts she never thanked me for. Still, I believed she'd come around. Then one day, I found out she'd taken $12,000 from my savings, money I'd set aside for my own business. She said it was for family emergencies. Turns out, she used it to help Hannah and her husband buy a villa down south. When I confronted her, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You'll earn more. Hannah deserves comfort, she has a family. You don't." That sentence had lived in my bones for years. But I buried it. Because that's what good daughters do, they forgive. Until cranberry juice made me remember every single word. I spent months after that birthday rebuilding in silence. I worked day and night, freelancing design contracts, saving every cent. I stopped calling. Stopped replying to their guilt-laced messages. And slowly, I began to see, they weren't cruel because they hated me. They were cruel because I stopped needing them. And nothing frightens small people more than someone who outgrows their cage. So I kept growing. They taught me to survive their storms. They didn't expect me to build my own lightning. 2 years passed. 2 quiet, powerful years. By then, I had my own design brand, Lena New York, and my first collection was about to hit the market. Minimalist, elegant, unapologetic. Just like the woman I'd become. When my PR manager told me that my mother's community center had invited a local designer to showcase her collection at their charity gala, I almost laughed. They didn't even know it was me. I accepted the invite anonymously. The night of the gala, I arrived in a black satin dress, calm, collected, unrecognizable. My mother was at the entrance, greeting guests. Hannah stood beside her, in a designer gown she clearly couldn't afford. When Mom's eyes met mine, there was a flicker of confusion. She didn't know who I was until she saw the name on the event board. Lena Carter, founder, Lena New York. Her smile faltered. Hannah's jaw dropped. And Chloe, now an influencer wannabe, whispered, "No way." "Oh yes, way." As I took the stage to introduce my collection, I scanned their faces, the same faces that once laughed at me. I smiled. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Because I wasn't there to prove anything. I was there to reclaim my name. Revenge, I realized, doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just walks in, glowing. After the show, Mom approached me. "Lena," she said, her voice trembling. "We had no idea you were doing so well." No apology. Just interest. Hannah joined in. "Maybe you could help Chloe, she's trying to start a fashion page." There it was, the family pattern. Use me when I'm useful. Mock me when I'm not. I smiled politely. "Of course. I'd love to help. Let's meet next week." Their faces lit up with greed. They had no idea that meeting would be the beginning of their unraveling. The next week, we met at a downtown cafe. I brought my assistant, Marcus, tall, quiet, observant. I offered to collaborate with Chloe's brand, on one condition: they'd need to sign a small licensing contract so my company could oversee quality. They didn't read it. They just signed. And with that single signature, Chloe legally handed over her so-called brand, and the rights to her name under it, to me. They wouldn't realize what they'd done until months later. But I wasn't done yet. Because I'd learned something powerful: revenge isn't destruction. It's revelation. You don't need to burn bridges. You just let people cross the one they built with lies, and watch it collapse. 3 months later, Chloe called me, screaming. "Why is my Instagram gone? Why does it say Lena New York owns my content?" I calmly replied, "Because you signed it over." Remember our little contract?" She went silent. Then hung up. 2 hours later, Hannah called. "You tricked us." I sighed. "No. You tricked yourselves. I just gave you the pen." The next day, Mom showed up at my office, storming in like she owned the place. "You're punishing us for one mistake. For one night." I looked her in the eyes and said quietly, "No, Mom. I'm showing you what that night taught me, that family doesn't get to destroy you and still expect your help." She stood there, shaking. "We're your blood." I nodded. "Exactly. Which is why I bled for you once. Never again." She left without another word. I closed my office door, leaned against it, and for the first time in years, I cried. Not from pain. From release. Because revenge wasn't about making them suffer. It was about making me free. Weeks passed. Then one morning, I got a letter, handwritten, shaky. It was from my mother. I was wrong. About everything. I see now what I raised, not a daughter who left, but a woman who survived. I hope one day you'll forgive me. Not for me, but for you. I read it twice. Then folded it away. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It just stops it from owning you. So I went back to work. My next collection was called Phoenix. The campaign tagline read, "From ashes, we rise, not to return, but to become." When the collection launched, it sold out in 3 days. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. Because healing, real healing, doesn't need an audience. 6 months later, I turned 35. I celebrated quietly, no chandeliers, no laughter that cuts like glass. Just a few real friends, candles, and peace. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Hannah. "Mom's in the hospital. She keeps asking for you." I sat for a long time, staring at that message. Then I got up, grabbed my keys, and drove. When I walked into the hospital room, Mom looked smaller. Softer. She reached for my hand and whispered, "You look beautiful, Lena." It wasn't an apology. It was something else, acknowledgement. I smiled, tears burning in my eyes. "Thank you, Mom." We talked for an hour. Not about the past. About gardens, and music, and things that didn't hurt. And when I left, I realized, the true revenge wasn't in winning. It was in not needing to. I walked out under the moonlight, my heart steady, my path clear. I wasn't the girl in the stained white dress anymore. I was the woman who built her own light. Because sometimes, the turning point isn't the moment they break you. It's the moment you finally stop letting them. Completed.